In this video, I'll explain the PowerShell command history. Now, PowerShell is extremely powerful in all sorts of ways, and one thing that anybody who's worked with the command line interface will truly appreciate, a lot of the functionality that you'll find in Bash and the modern Windows command prompt for remembering what you've typed is carried over into PowerShell. And that's important because often you'll be performing repetitive tasks. Now, if you're creating a huge series of tasks, you'll obviously want to create a script. But when you're just working on a day-to-day basis with PowerShell, it really helps to be able to go back and find things that you've typed before rather than having to type them again. So for example, if I type in GL for get location and press enter, it's going to show me that path. Now I'm going to change this to different folders. So SLC users administrator. And SL is short for set location. So when I press enter, it's going to change our location into this new folder. And I could type in GL again. Now, of course, it's not a big deal to type 2 characters, but I could also use the up and down arrows. So if I press the up arrow once, you can see the last command that we typed. And if I press it again, you can see the one previous to that. So I'll go ahead and press enter now, and that can run that command. So you can cycle through the various commands that you've typed, and if I press the up arrow a few times, you can see the commands that I've typed since I've been using this PowerShell session. And if I press down arrow, it'll cycle me forward up to the most recent thing that I typed. So that's really, really useful because when you're working with PowerShell or any command line editor, the ability to be able to pull up that information quickly is a really useful thing. Now I'll show you something else. There's actually a commandlet called get-history. And if I press enter, it shows me all the various commands that I've typed in this session, and those are all in a buffer. Now there's a buffer size, and when that buffer gets maxed out, what will happen is every new command will push out the one on the bottom of the heap. So the oldest command will disappear depending on the buffer size. And to set that buffer size, just click on the jewel right here and go to Properties. And you can see you can set your buffer size right there. And you can choose the number of buffers as well. And this is great. You can discard old duplicates. So if you've got old duplicate commands sitting in that command buffer, you can choose to automatically have them removed. And that way, when you're cycling back through your command history, you don't have to worry about coming across the same command over and over and over again. You'll just have one instance of it sitting in your command buffer. And that's also great because if your command buffer is limited to a certain size, then it means that, you'll actually have more space for unique commands. So it's a great feature in PowerShell. It's something that when you start to use the PowerShell interface, you're going to find it very, very useful. And just keep in mind that you can change the settings here. I'll go ahead and close that. Actually, I'll go ahead and click OK to set those new settings and bring up your command history using the arrow keys or the get history commandlet. In this video, I'll discuss the PowerShell help system. PowerShell has an extremely robust help system. You can find anything that you need to know in there. And it can be a bit overwhelming at first because the problem with a system like PowerShell is there's so much information to sift through. And so I'll try to help maybe simplify things a bit by showing you how you can drill down with the PowerShell help system. Now, to start off with, I'm just going to type help. Now, this is sort of an intuitive thing, but the first thing that people tend to do if they're dealing with an interface like this, they don't know what to type, help. And this will actually give you information on the PowerShell help system itself. So this is kind of neat because you type help and it'll show you how to use help. And it's actually the get help command. You can see it right there. And down here we have more. So I'll go ahead and just hit the space bar. That'll take us down a page at a time. So there's plenty of information in here about the help system and what you can do with it. Now to use the help system, it's actually get-help. And if I just press enter now, it's just going to give us some information on what this is and some of the various examples. So everything tends to have an example. Let's try something different. Let's try get-help. And this time I'm going to put an asterisk in. Now what this does is show us everything in the PowerShell help system. So this is aliases, functions, commandlets, programs, you name it. It's all in here, and as you can see, there's a ton of information. You can break out of these searches at any time by using Control-C, by the way. Oh, it ended, but you can use Control-C to break out. Let's try to drill down a bit. So get-help, and inside asterisks, set ACL. So I know there's a PowerShell commandlet called set ACL, and if I put that inside asterisk, you can actually search on just that. And if I press enter, okay, we get a nice short response here showing us the name of the commandlet, the syntax. Now there's no information here on the syntax, whether there are any aliases for this or whether there are any remarks. Let's try something else, something we know should have some information in there. I hope does anyways. Get help. Let's say set location. Okay, so that's a little bit better. We have information now on the name of the commandlet, its syntax, and you can see there are 3 examples there. Its aliases, and interestingly enough, there are 3. SL, CD, which of course is change directory in DOS, and chdir, which is a carryover from Linux and Unix. So that's great, and there are even some remarks in there to help us understand more about this particular commandlet. Let's try something else. Get help. In this, I'm going to type in get-child item. Now what that does is bring up information specifically on that commandlet. And so note that I don't actually have to use the asterisks to search. Asterisks will be wildcard search. So that means anything that has whatever you put inside the asterisks will come up. If you use just one word like get, it would bring up all the commands or commandlets and aliases and programs and functions that had get in it. You can just type in the name of the commandlet if you know it already. There's also this, get help category. So in this case, what I'm going to do is say category alias. And that will show me just the aliases that are in PowerShell. So you can narrow down by different categories like function or commandlet or aliases. And there's much more to it. This is just sort of a brief overview of how the help system works. It's one of those things that you're going to use it when you need it. And the more that you get in depth with PowerShell and writing scripts, creating complex operations, you're going to find the help system extremely useful. And a little bit of work in understanding the various syntaxes of help and get help, and you'll be using the system like a pro in no time at all.